happening, people? Welcome back to Park Lane Podcast, episode number 25. My name is Luke, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Harry. Harry, how are you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. Pleasure to be here as always.
Yeah, good to have you on, mate. And joined once again my good friend, Marlon from A View from the South Stand TV. How you doing, mate?
Good. I'm glad to be back on finally. I could do a Saturday morning for once.
I love it, mate. I love it. I love the way you just messaged me and was like, yeah, I can be on. And I was like, perfect. That's what we need. Before we get into it, obviously just do all the housekeeping stuff. So, if you do like the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you do like the video, click the like button. And if you are following us on any podcast platform, don't forget to follow and give us a 5-star review. We are now associated with Security VPN. So if you are interested, Security VPN is the ultimate solution for all football fans who want to watch Premier League matches securely without any restrictions. With its advanced encryption technology, Security VPN provides a secure and private internet connection that guarantees your online activities are not monitored or tracked by any third parties. Furthermore, it's lightning fast speed, ensuring that your streaming experience is smooth and uninterrupted. With all these features and benefits, Security VPN undoubtedly is one of the best choices for anyone who wants to enjoy watching Premier League football without any worries. You can sign up via the link, which is securityvpn.com/ParkLanePod, and you do receive a 25% discount on your first month by using Park Lane Pod at checkout. So now we've got that out of the way, let's move on. So. Yeah, exactly. Oh, mate, it was about twice as long as that. I just cut it out. Anyway, shout out to them. So if you are interested with VPNs, jump on board. They're reasonably good prices as well. So have a little look. But Harry, let's go straight on and talk about Spurs. That's what we're all here for. We're not here to talk about VPNs. So let's talk about last weekend's game against West Ham. 2-0 win, which I did predict on last week's show, so I'll have that. But what are your kind of thoughts just on the overall game and how Spurs performed?
Yeah, fairly decent. I thought we got the job done. I think we're a lot better in that second half. I don't think we're fantastic in the first half, but once again, I think the second half, got the job done. Fairly convincing performance. I think we could have been better, but that second half performance was more like what we want to see, and we got the job done like Luke we both expected to. So yeah, not much to moan about at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to get another win, isn't it, Marlon? What were your thoughts watching the game? Were you happy with the performance? Still not happy with Spurs?
I suppose, look, at the end of the day, it was a poor West Ham side. And we got the job done. And it wasn't like we played badly. We just first half, both teams were crap. I would not have wanted to. That was not a Premier League kind of game, but it was one of them. Both teams could tell there was some confidence issues going into it with both teams. And actually looking at it, I was expecting more from West Ham. I was expecting way more from West Ham. But the two people that did surprise me was Ben Davies and Royal. And I know we'll probably get into that later, but. Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great, but we got the job done. My worry is if we play like that consistently over the next couple of weeks. But I'll take the 2-0 win. I'm not going to complain. I'm going to be positive. I have to be. And let's see how these next few weeks go. But I'll tell you what's really weird, hearing Harry's opinion after a week. Because he was obviously on my channel straight afterwards, and it's like the slight differences now that he's had time to review it. But yeah, no, it was good. It was good. It was okay-ish, and I'll take it. And that's the way I'm going to be.
Yeah, it was a good segue actually, Marlon. So Harry, you were on Marlon's show. So tell everyone, if they didn't see, what your thoughts were then and what they are now, because I'm interested to know.
You're testing my memory back then. Marlon probably knows better than me. I can't really remember what I said. I think I was happy with win at times, probably a bit critical of the performance, but looking back at it now, we got the job done and see the bigger picture. I think in that first half, West Ham had a couple of chances. It could have gone either way. Either side could have led at half time, but I thought the second half performance was better. Not entirely convincing though, so I think we need to improve, but it is a poor West Ham side, but we got the job done, I suppose. So there's always that negative side to it, but you go overlook the bigger picture, and we did get the job done and we won 3 points.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And that does take us into the top 4, Harry. So I'll come back to you. From how bad, and I'm trying not to be too critical this week, right? But how bad Spurs have been all season, and to say that we're sitting in the top 4, that is a good, that's a good place to be, right? Playing terrible football, barely winning games that we should be winning, and we're still in the top 4.
It's mind-blowing, really, if you think about it. I mean, I think the performances all season have been very poor. I can't remember the last time we played well, in the whole 90 minutes. Even the first game of the season against Southampton, it was really only in the second half we stepped up. Crystal Palace thumped them, only really the second half. We haven't seemed to play well the whole game. When we have started well, we haven't ended well. I think before the World Cup, we got lucky with a few of our results, especially early on in the season. Found ourselves really high up in the league. I think first or second at one point for a few weeks going into the first international break. But the performances still weren't good. So I don't think the performances have changed. I think we've struggled with results after the World Cup. But it's mind-blowing because at the end of the day, we're 4th. We're still in the Champions League. We've got it to do, but we're still in the Champions League and still in the FA Cup as well. So at the moment, it looks okay. But, the performances aren't good and consistency is an issue. I think we've got a lot of issues off the pitch that need to be talked about. But, we're 4th, which, I'm enjoying it while it lasts because I don't think we'll be there for long, but we're 4th at the moment.
I said, Harry, we were going to be optimistic today, but you suddenly went
Sorry,
top 4 chat to push us down a drain. But, Marlon, do you agree with what Harry says? Do you think that we'll finish top 4 this season? Or do you think that it's just not going to happen?
It depends on the League Cup final tomorrow. I think that's going to play a massive, massive part on where we finish because whoever wins it, especially if Newcastle win it, I think they'll take a dip in the form. But I'm not entirely sure. Even Man United, I'm not entirely sure on how Man United seem to be changing the way they've played, and they seem to be having a different mentality. So to be honest, I'll be cheering on Newcastle tomorrow. I know I probably shouldn't be because I know for future things, but actually for this season, we need probably Newcastle to win it because you can see since Newcastle got into that final, their results have completely gone downhill. They've obviously got one eye on tomorrow, and that's why their results are suddenly turned. As for the top 4 this year, I think for us to be on 8 defeats and to be in the top 4, it shows you how poor the Premier League's been this year. And I could sit there and probably name 5 teams that have played better this year than they have in previous years. And that's probably obviously Arsenal, United, Newcastle, Brentford, and Brighton. Apart from them 5 teams, everyone else is pretty much having a poor season. And that shows you how poor the Premier League's been. And you should think about it. Like, I didn't even mention Man City. Even for them, they're having a poor season. And that's why for Arsenal, if they don't win it this year, they will never get a better chance. They will never get a better chance because City and Liverpool have obviously completely gone off the boil. Chelsea have spent all that money and it does take time. Whether it's with Potter or not is a complete different conversation. But we're sitting there with 8 defeats and we're still, in the top 4? And when that many points behind Newcastle have drawn so many, but we've won more than them, but yet they're having a good season. So you kind of have to look at it like that. I think a lot of teams are having a hangover from last year. And it's so blatant, you can see it. Like even certain players, Son, Salah, having hangovers. Man City as a team are having a hangover. The World Cup being in between. There's so many different factors. And we've been quite lucky that obviously a lot of the games that we've played, those second half performances that we've had during the season have kind of helped us out to why we are where we are now. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm not even sure if I want top 4. I'm at that moment now where I don't even know what I want because what difference does it make if we get it or not? Look at the signings in the summer. I've said this before. Every signing we made in the summer, apart from probably Perisic, we could have made if we were in the Europa League.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest worry about Spurs right now. We need to start making signings that, when we made the Van der Vaart signing and we all went, it's only because we're in the Champions League. You kind of knew he was only coming here for that factor. We haven't had that sort of signing for years, like not years, and that's the biggest issue we're having right now.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying, right? But I'll come back to you. The one point I want to take away from that is you're not sure if you even want Champions League football. Like,
Yeah.
is that solely based on the answer that you gave in terms of whether it will actually benefit the transfer business that Spurs do, rather than actually not bothering about wanting to watch Spurs play in the Champions League?
It's a bit of both. Like if you're gonna compete in the Champions League, like let's be totally honest, right? Tottenham or a Champions League team should never be in a situation, should never be in a situation where Sarr and Skip are your starting two. Like, there's no way we should have been left in that predicament. I guess, and I get it, injuries and stuff like that, but we should never have been left in that situation, right? Our back three, like you saw when Ben Davies came on against Milan. That was just an awful 10 minutes. And again, it showed our quality. Our front three right now, um, even Kane, since Kane's broke the record, they've all gone off the boil. Our front three are just not firing at the moment. And it'd be great if we could go, you know what, let's take Kulusevski out and put someone else in. But we can't even afford to do that because we see what happens when we miss Kulusevski for months. We weren't playing well. We were just winning games in the second half. And we shouldn't be left in that type of situation. And that's my only argument to it. Is actually, if you go and play Europa League football, you can actually concentrate on the Premier League all year, and then the Europa League can do what you've done every year that you've done before and just play a second string in it. If that's the type they're going down. But yeah, it's like if we win or beat, or if we lose or draw to AC Milan, in a couple of weeks, what difference does that make to our season? Because we're not going in the Champions League to try and we're just in there to make up numbers. Is that what we want to be? Is what I'm asking.
I understand, but surely, let's say we beat AC Milan, right? It's a 1-0 deficit at the moment, right?
I know a poor AC Milan that, let's be honest, we should beat.
But let's say a quarter final of the Champions League. Are you not happy as a fan with the quarter final of the Champions League football?
Again,
there's only a very, very small amount of teams that go in it and know that they can win it.
I'm going to be totally honest. No, because I don't want to be just getting to quarterfinals. That's Arsenal mentality under Wenger, right? And that's not where if you're paying the most expensive season ticket in the country, you've got to look at it and go, no, we should be aiming for semi-finals and finals. Like, why can't we? Why is that not the aim? Why are we aiming just to compete? Right? At the end of the day, the whole point of football is to be the best and win trophies. At the end of the day, it's not about making Champions League football. Like, if you think 10 years, or maybe longer than that, 20 years ago, Champions League football wasn't what it is today, and it was about winning other cups and other competitions. But what's the point in going in it and competing in it if we're not seeing the quality of it? So that's why I'm saying at this present moment, I would sit there and say, apart from Harry Kane, probably Son at best, Spencer Konkulu, the rest of the team is kind of Europa League level. And that's my only problem. I should include Romero in that as well. But the rest of them, would you pay 50 or 60 quid to be watching that every week if you wasn't a season ticket holder? Would you want to?
I get your point, but then talk about Europa League. Do you really see us winning the Europa League if we were in it this season?
Looking at the teams in it, Barcelona, Man United, and the other team. Well, Sporting Lisbon are in it, and yet we didn't beat them. So again, you're actually answering the question for me, because again, we're not even at that level. But that's where we're at. We kind of got. You should have two squads, right? I've always believed you should have two squads. I get the first team and the second string won't be as much quality, but you want to be able to pull on that second squad and go, actually, if you're coming in, you're gonna be given a good performance as much as the first team player. I get you're not going to get another Harry Kane. I get that, and I get you're not going to get another. Well, you possibly could get another Romero but you're not going to get that sort of quality. But actually, make sure the quality is good coming in. And at that present moment, a lot of our players are second string players that shouldn't even be playing for our first team. And that's why I actually sometimes think Conte is doing a better job than we all realise. Because I know we're playing really bad football, but actually to have us in fourth, right, and competing, and still, like, you have to look at it, to have us in full spot at this part of the season, and looking at our squad, you kind of go, okay, he's actually doing a better job than we expected. And a lot of people won't agree with that, but we should be nowhere near. We should be nowhere near that full spot, especially after how many games we've lost. And most of the games we've lost have been to top 6 sides. I think we only lost 2.
I'm coming back to you one more time, right? And then I'm going to go to Harry. One thing you mentioned was that you think Conte is potentially doing slightly better than expected, or should do, right? With the kind of caliber of players, that kind of thing, I assume is the angle that you're going at, right? But before that, you also mentioned that this is one of the poorest Premier League seasons in recent years in terms of the teams that are underperforming. So is he doing a good job, or is he doing an average job based on the current caliber of the Premier League?
It's a bit of both. And that's the argument right now. It is a bit of both. I think Conte's got very lucky in the sense of that the Premier League is having a poor season. But at the same time, considering who our squad is, you can't I'm looking at it like this. I look at it and go, is our defence any better than Liverpool's? Probably not. If we're being completely honest, it's not better than Liverpool's. It's not even better than Chelsea's, right? But their problem is they don't have a Harry Kane. Both of them just don't have a Harry Kane. So you kind of going, but a lot of our play, and I think what Conte tries to do, a lot of it has to go through Harry Kane because he's the only player who's actually performing this season. And if it wasn't for Haaland, or Haaland, however you want to pronounce it, Harry Kane is probably having the season of his life. Now, the thing is that you have to kind of go is, and you have to just take the situation we're in right now. And the fact that we can even say, the bigger picture is, we're 4th. I know there's games in hand and stuff, and the points are on the board, but you have to kind of go, is Conte doing that much of a bad job that we should be sitting in 4th? If that, let's be honest, and the club's aim is 4th spot, to the club, he's doing well, right? Because that's where they want to be. But to us fans, yes, the football is sometimes god-awful to watch. But if you look at parts of last season, there were certain games last season that Spurs were entertaining, right? Let's take the Arsenal game at home. Not one of us said it was poor, but Conte wanted to move on from that. But the problem is we can't trust that back three. And I think that's where the biggest issue is right now, is that he can't trust anyone in that back three, which then means the football, he has to plan in a complete different way. And what hasn't helped this year is the mistakes that they've all made. But, everyone wants us to play on the front foot, but Conte's one of them managers, isn't he? He doesn't want to win games. He doesn't want to win games 4-3 like he did against Leeds. He doesn't want to win them games against Bournemouth 4-3 either. He doesn't like that sort of football. But it has come to that point because the defense is so poor. It's really bad. And that's why when you look at the West Ham game, the fact if Bowen finishes off that chance is a complete different game. So
yeah, it's a good point.
You have to ask yourself these questions, and that's a poor West Ham side, and we still just can't seem to. And you can't, I know you can't completely blame Conte for that. You have to completely ask yourself as the players what they're taking on instructions. Is how do they then go and perform? Where I do blame Conte is when you're playing Ryan Sessegnon, left wing back, and you're playing Højbjerg next to Sarr, and Højbjerg's not telling Sarr what to do in a North London derby. There's stuff like that where I start asking questions of Conte. But you know what? He's trusted in Emerson Royals, and I know we're going to get onto him. You have to give him credit for that. And Jed Spence apparently he had one good game for is it Rennes he's at? And then yesterday, apparently the other day, he was really poor. So, and a lot of fans were calling for Jed Spence to come in. So you have to trust what Conte says on some things sometimes.
Yeah. Harry, what's your thoughts? Kind of brief overview on everything that we just discussed.
It's interesting. I'm probably in between both, to be honest with you. I think that I suppose, I've got to admit that Conte is perhaps living up to the club's small mentality standards or finishing in top 4. Personally, don't think that's a way a big club should look at it. We've got someone like Arsenal, right, who we finished above last season, just about, yes, but we finished above them, who are now top of the league and I can't remember the exact number, but a long way right ahead of us, and they've done a double over us. That just shows the difference for me in ambition, mentality in a transfer window, and the difference of a manager. I think we got it completely wrong. Much as I hate to admit it, they're playing great football and getting great results. We're playing terrible football and can't even get the results. I think we're only in top 4 personally because Conte's not here. I think Conte done a fantastic job last season, but if you look at it, may only be coincidence, but he comes in and we lose 2 games against Leicester Milan, goes away and we win it's like that. As soon as he goes, we win again. So it might just be coincidence, but I'm someone who's defended Conte a lot and criticised the board, Levy, a lot. But I think all our Spurs fans the majority of our Spurs fans after that summer transfer window, including myself, when I can see us finishing second or third this year based on that transfer window, may have not been all the high profile players, but in terms of positions, I looked at that transfer window and finished second or third. And, I just think that so many teams this year have been poor. And I think I get criticised just a lot, but I'm going to continue to say it. I love rattling Arsenal fans, but, I think Arsenal have had it really, really easy. I've never seen City drop as many points. Liverpool and Chelsea, I've never seen them like they are now for a long time. You got likes of Man United, who even started the season poor, finally coming into play. That you've got that, and even us, we're not the same. So I think Arsenal have had it easy. But as stupid as this may sound, I'd rather us not get European football than get something like Conference League or Europa League, because I just think the way we approach like the Conference League, Europa League, we play a weaker team that can't even beat small teams. I'd rather not get Europe at all. I believe that disrupts it. The bit I'd have to disagree with you on, Marlon, is the fact I would personally like Champions League. Obviously, I don't think that's enough in terms of for us fans. I think the club has basic expectations, like you pointed out, for higher season tickets in Europe. But I just think something we've got to accept. Our owners are not very intelligent, and a bit small-minded, and lack ambition. Useless, if I may say so. I think I've come to the point where I've got to accept that. I don't see a long-term future with Conte either, and I can't see us getting top 4. I know you said come into this positive-minded, but I can't see us finishing even in the top 5. I just think consistency is an issue. Players are injured. Players are an issue. Probably get more injuries. Conte's not here. I just think whenever things go right, things that go wrong with Tottenham. So, yeah, I'm already focusing on next season.
Right, okay. So let's bring back a little bit of positivity to this show today. Everyone that knows me knows that I'm filled with it. So let's have a quick talk about a few players from the West Ham game, because we did start talking about West Ham, but we kind of went off on a big tangent. Harry, I'll come back to you quickly. Emerson Royals, again, had a great game. He played really, really well, I thought, in that right wing-back role. And ever since Pedro Porro has come in, he seems to have just stepped it up and scored us our first goal. What are your thoughts on Emerson Royals and his recent uplift in performances?
Yeah, fair play to him. He stepped up recently. I mean, like, we discussed earlier, I think it's the difference of signing a quality player in his position, who now, by the way, in Porro, who can't even get into the team. We're talking about a player that all us fans wanted to get rid of not that long ago. Myself didn't want him in the team. None of us could see, why Conte was playing him. It was just like, why are you playing him? He's playing terrible. But perhaps that paid off. But he's, you're talking about a player also who spent £1 million trying to improve his defending. So he's got that commitment, determination there. And stepped up recently, both attacking and defensively. He's enjoying life on and off the football pitch. And he's got that smile back on his face. It's great to see, to be fair. This is not something I expected to say even a few weeks ago, but Emerson's probably at the moment, along with Romero, our best players in the team at the moment. I think our attack isn't linking up. I thought even against West Ham, front three, there's no connection there. Got a bit lucky, I think, at times in that game. But the likes of Emerson, I think probably I would say at the moment the only player, against West Ham, Emerson and Højbjerg, the only two that for me look promising. So fair play to Emerson.
Yeah. And Marlon, just want your thoughts on Emerson Royals, but also on Ben Davies. I thought that he had an outstanding game as left wing back against West Ham. We've talked about poor West Ham and so on, but I thought that he got forward well and he did what he needed to do, kind of at a standard level that you would expect from a player. Now, I'm not suggesting that he's got the heights of, some of the best left wing backs in the world, but
I called it.
He put in a good performance.
Do you know what? I was a bit skeptical at first when I saw Ben Davies at left wing back, and then I started going back on history and thought, to be fair, he's a natural left back anyway, so this should be easy. And I believe that Poch has played in left wing back against Real Madrid a few years back.
Yeah.
So I was a bit like, you know what? And because I was on the We Are Tottenham TV pump up before it, and when we saw the team, you should have seen the two other hosts, their faces deflated. And went, actually, to be fair to Ben Davies, he can get forward. He's just not great at getting back. But also at the same time, I think because we've been starred with Cess, Doherty, and Perisic at left wing back, and Perisic's performance in the last 2 months have been god awful. I think anyone could have gone there and done a decent job. But actually, Ben Davies just done the job that was expected of a left wing back in that situation. But fair play to him, because actually, I'd love to see him there again against Chelsea. He needs to, like, I'd put Longley back at left wing back, the left centre back, and Davies back on left wing back, and just give Perisic that rest, and let Perisic come on and make an impact on games, because that's when Perisic is probably at his best, when he has to come on and take corners and set pieces and stuff like that, where he can make an impact. But as for Emerson Royals, I was one of those who defended him. I thought some of the abuse that he got from the Spurs fan base was unjustified. Yeah. He could always defend. He was just terrible at going forward. And this is where I do blame Conte. I thought the tactics you've got this player that is not very good at going forward. Don't make him go forward as much, or put him in positions where he's not going to make an impact on your forward play, because you've been with him long enough and you're picking him every week now. But Spurs fans' abuse to him was beyond the point of they were just trying to blame anybody. And I got to the point where when Pedro Porro came in, I was like, why are you bringing in Pedro Porro if actually you could bring in Pedro Porro? Does that make a difference to the goals we're conceding? Spurs should have gone in and got 2 centre-backs. That's all that was needed just to fix that leaky defence that we have, right? Because Emerson Royals was able to do a job, but his performances in the last few weeks, I've been surprised. And when I say surprised, I've been surprised on the way he goes forward. Because defensively, I've always said he's been sound. Like, even when he's next to Sanchez, he's been good. We've always said he's able to defend. But a lot of people said it's actually what he does with the ball at his feet. But when he scored that goal scored the first goal, I was pleased for him. Right? Because I know he ain't great, but I wasn't going to give him the ride that everyone else has. Because for me, Emerson's not the worst player in the team. There are other players, but they seem to be getting away with it. And Emerson Royals was always, like, even when Emerson Royals weren't even playing, he was getting abuse. And the only thing I say is that the Leicester game, we missed him. Just shows you how much we missed him, because I was a bit surprised Tanganga played in the first place, but Pedro Porro just got welcome to the Premier League against Leicester. And Leicester are a bang average team, let's be honest. They're better than the most teams at the bottom, and they just started really badly, but yeah, that was just a lesson. And good luck to him, because he's gonna have a lot of them games this year. Especially when you come up against the Zahas of this world. You know, remember Emerson Royals' first game against Zaha? He wasn't great either, and we all looked at him and went, "Oh my god, what have we bought?"
Yeah.
No, I kind of agree about what you mentioned about Pedro Porro, but Harry, I think it's going to take some time for Porro, as we said last week, to come in and be able to do a job. I remember under Pochettino a lot. He would never start new signings, straight away. He would allow them time. I remember, I think Lucas Moura, and especially Ryan Sessegnon as well, took a long, long time before they were actually integrated into the squad, because he believed that actually it would take, they needed to be able to perform on the training ground, the abilities of the squad. So I was surprised the way that Porro came straight in. But just quickly about Heung-min Son, very quickly, was benched, came back on, was set up by Harry Kane, scored a goal. The things that we want from him. Are you happy for him?
I'm very happy for him. I think it is the right decision to bench him, and I would do the same against Chelsea, personally. I think that shows the effect. And we were discussing this, weren't we, Marlon, on A View from the South Stand the other day. Discussed it also with you, Luke, before the game, about setting that standard, about showing players that, no matter about how bad you're playing, no matter how, high profile player ego you are, you need to be dropped. For example, I was one of the fans when Kane had a bad run of form just before he wanted to leave. Under, I think it was the end of Pochettino. I was one of the ones who said drop him, to show that he has to work his way into the team. Because I think lots of players look at it. I'm not going to put names on it, right? But lots of players look at the situation and go, look, I'm in the team. I made it as a professional footballer. Actually, one example I will give is Dele Alli. Took his foot off the gas a little bit. I'm here. I've made it. Everything's going right in life. and you just can't do that. I'm not saying Son's doing that, but I think dropping him set that standard to get in the team, and he come on the bench and looked like a player who was willing to prove something, and he done well, and I did the same against Chelsea. I called for him to be benched. I'm quite happy with that. I take credit for that. And also something I'm happy about is that, Luke, when I went through my team news that I would play against West Ham, and I did want to see Davis left wing back. You got the score right. I predicted Davis left wing back, so it's good for both of us. I thought Davis, you both said, I thought we done really well left wing back. I mean, he's playing against a poor West Ham team, but I think he done well, better than Perisic has done. And I'd like to see both Perisic and Son benched against Chelsea, 2 different reasons. Perisic, I think I worry about him defensively, and he's played a lot of minutes, more than he was probably expected, I think, when signing him. So I think he needs that rest. And why change the team, like when Davis done really well, a left wing back. And I'd like to see, obviously, Richarlison play, but I just think the formation needs to be flexible to allow Richarlison to be at his absolute best. Discussed this on my show Monday night about how we want to see Richarlison in different places. And I've got to agree. So I think it's interesting, but I'd like to see a bit of a tweak. But I worry about us defensively. I think there's a possibility of Reece James coming back. In that case, I think Davies has got to play left wing back. I think that's just the safest option.
Yeah, I think that I worry about him, Ben Davis, against a pacey opposition. That's my only issue with that.
Yeah.
And touching very quickly my thoughts on Emerson Royals, I feel that, Marlon, you mentioned about him going forward. I think that one thing that he has introduced to his game is his ability to cut inside a little bit more and be able to play inverted as opposed to out wide, because out wide he really doesn't offer that much. But you saw from the goal that he scored that he was in the center of the box at this point, and it was wing back to wing back that played it. So big up to him, because I've been critical of him, but it's good to see that. Oh, you can jump in if you want.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, actually, then that's a very good point. And the only, talking about, because you was obviously talking about Son, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about him being dropped for this week, because it's a different team, it's a different animal. It is Chelsea, and Chelsea like to turn up, and he tends to play okay against Chelsea. If possible, I wouldn't start with Richarlison, unless you're going to play 2 up top and put Kulu behind, play a 3-man midfield. Then I would say play Richarlison. But if he's going to drop Son, I think he's either got to put Jan Juma there or Lucas Moura. Not that I want Lucas Moura out there, but he's going to do a job, and a half decent. He's going to do a better job than Richarlison, and that's my thinking behind it. If you want Son to come on, but yeah, it's kind of you're in that situation right now where, like you said, if the 2 wing backs are not going to go out wide, you then need your 2 wingers if they're going to be wingers. So you can't have Richarlison. You're going to have to play a Lucas Moura or a Dan Juma who can go further wide, and then you can have Kulu going on the right, and then you can have your 2 wing backs coming in to support Kane. So it's a case of, I'm not sure if I entirely agree. I'm 50-50 on the Son being dropped. Against teams like West Ham and Leicester, where he was dropped, they're going to get tired. And they're not very... And the thing is, when you come up against a clever player like that and you're tired in the last half an hour, you're going to get caught out. This is Chelsea. Yeah, completely. You got centre-backs that are clever. They're not... Even when they get tired, they're going to be 1 step ahead. So I'm a bit like, maybe he needs to start, or maybe... I don't know. On that situation, I really don't know. And either way, if he's dropped, depends who it's for. If he's not dropped, I'll be happy if he comes back into the starting lineup.
Perfect. So, Harry, want to know your thoughts on Eric Dyer's potential new contract at Spurs. A lot of people have dismissed it, but a lot of managers have seen potential in him. Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte. Give us your...
There. Not Poch. Huh? Not Poch.
Well, he played him in various positions for Spurs.
But he did, yeah. But the problem is Poch wanted to get rid. But he lost his job before he could get rid. But yeah, I agree with you. The Poch, but we'll get into that. But yeah, go on.
Look, I think the amount of games he played for Spurs under Poch shows that he must have had something. But
he was, to be fair, he was a midfielder then. He wasn't a centre back. So
he was a midfielder. He was a right back, and then he went into centre back, didn't he? So I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Harry, you go.
Sorry. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm fairly active. You probably see that I got criticised for my opinion on this. Lots of people have jumped at Dyer. Need to get rid of him. I think Dyer's been poor, and maybe this is slightly hypocritical what I'm going to say because of someone who's said our defence is championship level. But personally, I do want to see him sign a new contract because I don't think we have the players like he does that has the passion, has the honesty, after the game to admit what's going wrong and what's the problem. People say at the end of the day, he's not here to be honest. He's here to play football. But I think there's some games recently that he's been good. I thought West Ham is really good, and he has a mistake in him, and he's not world class. I can see what Marlon thinks about that. He probably wouldn't get into any top 4 team, maybe not. I just personally love his passion, honesty. I don't think many of our players have that, and it's nice to hear after the game what's going wrong at the club. And someone who speaks out honestly. I think he's a natural leader as well, and that leads to another example why I like the likes of Højbjerg. I don't think we have enough of that. So yeah, I'd like to see Dyer sign a new contract for that. Whether he should be at the team or not is a completely other discussion. But I think he's better than people make out. And you've got to remember a player that lots of managers here at the club have liked and wanted to sign. Mourinho at Man United wanted to sign him. He's not world class, Dyer. Never will be. Got to accept that. But I think I'm not going to say reliable, but I think he's solid and does his job well. I want to hear it.
Before we go on to Chelsea, Marlon, what's your thoughts about that comment from Harry? Because the one bit I want to pick out of that is that he wants him to sign a new contract, but he's not world class, and he probably wouldn't get into another team in the top 4. So that suggests why keep him at Spurs?
Do you know what? I might let you get into that. So Eric Dyer. So he said one thing that Harry just said then was about the honesty that he has when it comes to interviews and stuff like that. Because most of the time he has to be because he's the problem. He's the issue, right? He wouldn't have to be honest if he wasn't in the team. Because if we had signed a half-decent centre-back, right? And the thing is, you look at Harry, I look at Harry Souttar, who just signed for Leicester, right?
Yeah.
He was gettable. He was at Stoke. I get he probably wasn't the signings that Spurs fans would have wanted, but is he better than Eric Dyer? Yes, right? For me, Eric Dyer is a centre-back, right? And a lot of people have come up with this. Yeah, he's this, he's that. And, when he plays well, he didn't play well against West Ham. West Ham were poor, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I sit with Eric Dyer, right? He's such a poor centre-back that I'm like, why the hell are we giving this man a new contract? But the one thing I do agree is he needed a new contract, but only for we've got to sell him. Yeah. And that's where I think he needs that's why I believe that he does need that new contract. Now, there's no other reason because if I remember correctly, in the Premier League, he doesn't count as a homegrown player. He only counts he counts as a non-homegrown player in Champions League only because I think they changed the rules last year. But he doesn't count as a homegrown player. Now, my question is to you, considering he's not a homegrown player, does that give you going to sit there and tell me that as a non-homegrown player, we can't find a better centre-back in Europe?
No, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that because I've been critical of Dyer. And like you said, at times he has been problems in the game. It may be stupid, but I like the things he does after the game, like his honesty, and that people go, hang on, he's not here to talk. He's here to play football. Maybe that's true. I don't think he's the problem. I think we've got worse defenders in that team.
Do you know what? And do you know what? I actually agree with you. There are worse defenders. No, when are there worse defenders?
I think so.
I actually don't think there are. The problem is, and this is where I'm going to contradict myself. The problem we have, Dyer's the only decent central centre-back that we have. And that's the biggest issue because anyone who's gone there seems to have an issue playing there, right? But we still can see goals. But Dyer when you play him as that third one, he's okay. He's okay. He's okay for what we have, because you can't play Sanchez there because he's like we say, he's Bambi on ice. You can't play Romero there because he wants to bomb. He wants to go into that tackle, and I think against Southampton last year he played there, and it just summed his. Southampton it was, and he just summed up why he can't play there. Longley is probably the only other person who can play there, but I think again he needs a. But then you've got no one to play left centre back.
Exactly.
Because I don't think Ben Davies, again, when he plays with Longley, is very comfortable. When he plays, he's more comfortable when he plays with Dyer. So you're stuck again. And that's why them two positions need to be covered. And my worry is with Dyer getting this new contract is the most likely is we're not going to sign an English centre back next season. Right? We'll be quite honest about that. So if he's taken up a non-homegrown player, it just means that we can't go out and get the two centre backs we need, because Dyer's already taken up a spot, and that's the biggest worry. Now, if they're thinking about it in the term of we need to sell Dyer in the summer, which I'll be totally happy with, then I can understand why he's got the new contract. But as Luke's pointed out earlier, if he's not good enough for a top 4 side or a Champions League team, why the hell are we giving this man a contract?
Yeah,
and this goes back to my point earlier. Again, what's the point of making Champions League when you got players like Dyer who are going to always constantly play? And this is where I have a problem with Conte, Nuno, and Mourinho, and I'm probably having more of Jose, because, and I thought it was down to the fact he could speak Portuguese, and that was the reason why. But the fact they all played him centre back, and I think Pochettino already came out and said he can't play centre back. That's why he put him in midfield. And for me, Dyer should have stayed in centre as a DM, right? He was playing for England on a regular basis there as well. Okay, he got really sick and got really ill, which you can't blame him for, and it took him some time to get back. But he's not a centre back. He loses concentration. He is better as a DM, and personally, I would play him DM. I think him and Højbjerg would actually probably work quite well, but it's one of them.
Yeah, it's interesting, like listening to both of your points on that. You know, the one reason I can think why Spurs would want to sign him on another contract is for financial reasons.
Yeah,
it's for financial reasons. Is they would rather utilize the asset and sell at a fee as opposed to losing.
Which I agree with. It makes business sense, and that's the one bit I do agree with. But yeah, it's one of them.
But do you sign contracts with players just for financial reasons? And that becomes a problem with Spurs board. And that was where I will be critical of them, is that you can't look at everything as a financial gain or a financial implication on it, because, give him 6 months left on his contract, he could go abroad.
But it's quite funny you say that as well, because when you look at their financial results and you look at what they said, they blamed a lot on their recruitment. Now, for me, as a businessman, if you're going to say, actually, we couldn't make this amount of money because our recruitment was really bad, you kind of go, well, you're going to have to start writing off some of these assets that you have messed up in, unfortunately, and restart again and build again. Because getting rid of Doherty and Aurier for free, I was very surprised. This is not a Tottenham Hotspur thing to do. But again, it's stuff like that where you go, okay, if you might need to start doing that with some other players. You need to lose them for free and start again. And maybe it will work. But, Paratici has made some half decent signings that have, probably been the shining light in our team in the last few months. But we don't even know if he's going to be here next year. So you're stuck kind of in the same situation, aren't you? So yeah, it's for financial gain. But yeah, with Dyer, he's probably the one I don't understand what the financial gain is. And if he is signing a new contract so you can get rid of him, please don't try and sell him for like 30 million when he's not worth that. If it's 10 million or 15, that's a decent enough price for him. And to be fair, a team like Brighton, a team like Brentford, and all, nothing against them, but Dyer is perfect for them because there's less pressure on him. And actually the way he plays might suit them. But for someone like us, it's completely different. Like I can actually probably see him at Leicester.
And the financial implications really don't make much sense because, as far as I'm aware, he still doesn't qualify as a homegrown player.
Not in the Premier League, only in the Champions League. Yeah.
So therefore, why would you think, it only really works, in my opinion, doing that if he was to become part of your homegrown quota for the Premier League, right?
Yeah. And this is why
actually that financial sense is not as high as somebody who would qualify for that on those bases.
Yeah. And like, no matter how crap Cess is, you would understand it. And you understand why Winks gets a new contract. You understand, you get it. Like if they came out tomorrow and said Tanganga's getting a new contract, you get it. He's not taking up no spaces. He's there as a homegrown player, and it is what it is. But yeah, with Eric Dyer, the fact we signed him and knowing the fact he was going to take a homegrown spot, right? When he first started as DM, I was willing to let him do it. But as soon as he went into centre back, game over. He's not good enough. He should have been on the same train as Dele Alli and gone. Right? Because Ben Davies was the same. I think he was the other way around, though, where he didn't count as a homegrown player in the Champions League only up until this year as well, but he was a homegrown in the Premier League. But Davies, again, you can understand why he would get new contracts. Once they're in the homegrown pool, you kind of go, you can take it. But once they're not homegrown, that's it. You need to be they're the assets that are going to be taking up spots financially and hurting you. And like I asked Harry earlier, are there better centre backs across Europe that are better than Eric Dyer?
Yes.
I think we all know the answer to that.
Yeah, exactly. I just personally can't see us signing two centre backs, and I think a left centre back is more important, or a left-footed centre back, I should say. We won't get into this too much, but Wynnie did say thoughts on long leg permanent. I think again, there's much better left-footed centre backs out there. I think he's done an all right job, but I think there are much better, high-quality, younger left-footed centre backs that we could go for in the summer. But Marlon, I want to touch on something I mentioned last week because someone jumped in our comments of last week's video and shouted loads of abuse at me, which I do like to read.
What did you say?
I know. What I said last week, right? And I'm going to ask you now, okay? Because I kind of know your thoughts a little bit on this, but I want to hear it in full. So, and then we'll jump on to Chelsea for the last 10 minutes. But I said last week that Antonio Conte, in my opinion, sits in the same bracket as Jose Mourinho in terms of outdated, prehistoric, and football that doesn't get played and shouldn't be played in the modern football, and that's why he's getting outplayed week in, week out. And I can't wait till the day that Antonio Conte leaves Spurs. That's the words that I said.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on Antonio Conte as a whole? And do you agree with that, or do you have a completely different view?
So I agree with the sense on he's not prehistoric, and I don't agree Jose is either, right? And I'll answer both to why I don't think. Give them the team or the players that they need for their systems, it works, right? And the reason why I say that is because, again, I go back to last season. You go back to the last 5-6 games when actually the players believed in the style and everything was working. And I think even Conte believed in the players, even though at the time they still weren't good enough because they're still inconsistent then. But it does work. The problem you've got a lot with this season is I think a lot of things have happened to Conte personally. And I think that's played a lot into tactics and stuff like that. And actually, he probably does need some time away from football. But if you gave Conte 2 decent centre-backs, probably a better midfielder than Højbjerg. I'm not saying nothing against Højbjerg, but I'm just saying to play with Bentancur because Bentancur is the one that goes forward. And if you had a fit Kulu and a Son firing, and 2 decent wing-backs, I think it works. But the problem is Spurs are not going to back him. Like, when I say back him, because that's a very loose word, Spurs are not going to buy them players. They want you to build. Wrong team. We're the wrong club, right? Now, I'm going to take you back to Jose, right? You forget that Jose had us top of the league, right? And actually playing half-decent football at the beginning. When we were battering Southampton, before we went to Liverpool, and then all of a sudden, it was. Remember when we beat Chelsea 5-3 all them years ago under Poch, and it was Jose and Chelsea were top. And then after he lost 5-3
on New Year's Day,
after New Year's Day, you can ask Chelsea fans this. Mourinho went defensive for the rest of the season because he wanted that title. But before that, Chelsea were the most entertaining club in the league. Like, I remember watching them going, this ain't Jose Mourinho, what's going on here? But he learned a lot from his Madrid days. But you have to look at what Roma are doing this year. And Roma are actually, you know, again, they're in the same situation as Spurs. But again, he's doing okay. He's doing the job he's supposed to. And I think it's not a case of they're past it. But Mourinho, I kind of thought was past it until I saw him at Roma this year. And I'm like, maybe, you know, if you gave him more time. But again, if you gave him the defenders he wanted at Spurs, might have been a complete different situation. And I think the same goes with Conte. And I think Conte and Mourinho don't work for Spurs under this ownership. There's only certain type of managers you can go out and get if you want it to work. And they've got to be coaches. They've got to be better coaches than managers. Ones that are going to make players better, right? Conte and Mourinho ain't in for that. You're a man, yeah? You want to play football. You make yourself better. I tell you how to do it. You go and do all the other stuff off the pitch to make yourself into a better player. And that's the biggest issue that some of the people won't like. Because let's be honest, Pep Guardiola is a complete, like, everyone. So Pep Guardiola, let's take Pep, right? Pep's first season at Man City, right? The defense was crap, right? He improves players, but their defense was crap. Why did he go out and spend 100 and I think it was 200 million in the end on a whole new defense? Why couldn't he coach them? Why couldn't he coach Zabaleta? Why couldn't he coach? I forgot who else they had at the back at the time, Kolarov and all them. Why did he just not go out and coach them? Why did he go and buy the Carl Walkers of this world? Why did he go buy Mendy? Why did he go buy Laporte? Why did he go buy Diaz? If they could be coached, the defense he had at the time, and he was a good coach, why did he buy them? Yeah,
it's a good point. Last point on this, right? I asked Harry this, and he decided to bottle it last week. Sorry, Harry, I'll come back to you in a minute. But
I'm ready.
Marlon, my question for Harry last week was: a lot of people say that Conte, right, hasn't been backed by the board, and our club don't back managers and so on, right? I just want a number from you, right? How much does Conte need to be given, and how much do we need to spend in transfers before people start using the terms he has been backed? You know, because I'm asking myself a question every day: is it 100? Is it 300? Is it 500? You know, how much till people are happy?
Money. It's not about money. It's about personnel. And this is where I sit on it. It's not about, for me, I couldn't care less if Spurs spent 500 million, 600 million. I don't care. Or even if they spent 200 million. It's about the personnel you have in the team. And if for me, and this is where I'm going to sit, if for me, Conte went into the Spurs board and he went into them and said, you know what, I'm happy with Davis, Dyer to be my centre-backs for the next season, I have a problem with Conte. Because I can clearly see, nothing against Davis, but it's a case of I can clearly see most of the goals that we end up conceding or are coming from that side and are down to them not being stronger than they should. So when we say it's Conte, like we don't want stories coming out this week about Richarlison where it come out and said it wasn't Conte said yes, but it was a Daniel Levy thing that he thought he could get one over Everton. You don't want that. And this is the problem that every manager's had. We are a team that takes when we go into transfer markets, we only do deals if it's a great opportunity. We never go into a deal going, we want you, you're our first target, we're getting you. Now, I completely can see why Richarlison's come in, and I completely understand it. And I'm happy that he's come in because I always said we needed a backup to Kane. But how many times has he come on for Kane is one question. And how many times has he played as a central striker? Right, position that he's naturally good at.
But whose fault is that?
Again, and this is why if Conte didn't want him, don't buy him. Right? The same goes with Basuma. Apparently, Basuma wasn't his signing either. Apparently, the only person that from our summer transfer window that seems to be signing was Perisic. Right, because he needed a left wing back. But it's a case of Longley was a stopgap because the two centre backs that apparently we wanted both said no. Right, they didn't want to come to Spurs. I know people won't like to hear that, but they didn't actually want to come to Spurs. Right, because it was Bremer who ended up going Juventus, and he wanted Bastoni. Those were the two that they were going after. You know, at the end of the day, there was other reasons why they didn't come, but being backed, yeah, I think it's hard to be backed sometimes because a lot of the players that Conte and them guys want don't want to come to Tottenham. So you have to take that into consideration as well. So you are going to be left with the long lays of this world, unfortunately, the Richarlisons, the Basumas. And to be fair to Basuma, he needs an attack. He needs a manager that's going to attack. He doesn't, you can blatantly see he's not going to fit into a Conte system. He might eventually. You don't know. He might come back and it might be a completely Basuma that we see. But yeah, if Conte has gone in and said that back three, and I'm going to include Royal and Doherty and Cess and Paris and Cess in this as well, because it's a whole back line. If he says he's happy with that back line, that's on him. Because for me, as fans, we can blatantly see that they shouldn't be in the Champions League. I know they got us there, but them players wouldn't like. I look at the Champions League teams, and how many of them will get into Champions League teams is another question.
Yeah. This could go on and on and on and on and on and on. We could talk for another 2 hours about this, but I appreciate that. You didn't answer it, but I appreciate that. You answered it in a politician's way, just like Harry did. So let's move on and talk about...
I'll let you get the abuse, not me.
That's all right. I can take it on the chin. Shout out to the angry cock. Please don't be angry at us, but they said coys. So let's talk about Chelsea. So people may have seen my tweet about Chelsea. I will go on to that shortly. But Harry, you haven't talked for a while. So talk to me about Chelsea. Tell me how optimistic you are for the Chelsea game this weekend. Talk to me.
Well, at least we won against West Ham, I suppose. It gives me a little bit of hope. Do I think we'll win the game? No. Can I see us losing the game? Probably not either. Get on to score predictions later. If Chelsea going to be up for any game this season, it's going to be against us. This is the game they're going to be up for, right? And we've got to remember their team's full of 600 million. It hasn't quite glued yet, but it'd only be Spurs, wouldn't it, to start their run for top four. Would I take a point? Don't know, probably not actually, but it's a game that going into it, I can't see us winning or losing. I mean, that narrows it down to a draw. But little bit of hope against West Ham. But I just look at the injuries we've got, look at the situation with the club. Perhaps I generally have a more negative view, but I don't go into that game going, "Oh, I'm looking forward to this. We're gonna smash Chelsea like Sam Danks that we think we did." But I win in the game like that against West Ham. So who knows? I'm not feeling that confident, to be honest. Closer we get to it, the more I think about we might lose.
Harry, why are you not feeling confident? Conte's not there. I thought you said Stellini's the man.
Well, true. I did say Stellini's the man. I look at our team. Yeah, I look at our team. I look at transfer windows. I look at what looking at is I'm probably mistaken, but I look at Chelsea's new signings, their profiles, and their money. And I just hope that it hasn't glued at the moment. The possibility of Reece James coming back for the game scares me, to be honest with you. Looking at our defence, I think he'll run circles. The whole team, I don't think, be able to get the ball off Reece James. It may sound stupid, but, I think Reece James is a lot better than any other player we've got in that position. So that concerns me, the possibility of him coming back. I just hope Chelsea play like they have done recently, where things aren't quite gluing. But I'm not going to say Stellini's the man for the job permanently. I believe Stellini's the man for the job until the end of the season. I'm not going to, and perhaps again, I'm being like a politician, like perhaps I was last week. I'm not going to answer that question, Luke, but I think he's a man at the moment for the job. 100% win record under him. You can't question that.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'll jump to you in a second, Marlon, but I tweeted out yesterday and I said that I was incredibly confident about the Chelsea game. I think that this isn't a Chelsea of years ago. This isn't the Chelsea of players that know about how the record against Spurs, that know about, how they often do beat and get points off Spurs. This is a Chelsea side under Graham Potter, under a manager who performed incredibly well for Brighton. And, I hate to always use this analogy, but anyone that's ever played Football Manager, you try signing 12 odd players or however many they sign in this window, it never, ever works because the players never, ever gel. You never get a consistency of players. You never get consistency of team cohesion.
Eventually they do.
Eventually. But it's going to take a long time, in my opinion, for that to happen.
Look at Forest.
Todd Bowley is playing Football Manager on a daily basis in real life. And I just don't believe that that Potter will work out, unfortunately, at Chelsea. I like Potter. I don't think he'll work out. And I don't think that Chelsea will get anything against Spurs this week. I think that we will be far the better team. But Marlon, what's your thoughts? You've had one pessimist and one optimist. What's your thoughts?
I'm sitting in the camp of, so I look at it like this. I'm probably going to sit on the fence and say it's probably going to be a draw. If I'm being realistic, Spurs should not be losing this game. There's no way Spurs should be losing or drawing this game. But I always have to remember it's Chelsea. Chelsea, no matter what situation that they could be getting relegated, they'll always turn up again. They'll probably beat Spurs if they were getting relegated and probably smash them about 4 or 5-0. It's that situation when it comes to Chelsea. The only thing I'll say is that Chelsea, I think I watched them against Dortmund and I watched them against West Ham. And to be honest to them, they played well. They've just got no striker. And if you're going to have Havertz up front, it's a concern because he's not a goal scorer, but he will get goals once in a blue moon. So for me, I've got a feeling that it's not going to end well for us. I think they haven't lost at the new stadium either. It's one of them where I wouldn't be surprised if this is the game where Potter turns it round. They at the end of the day, we shouldn't be losing because of how they're on the form that they're on, but we have to not take away Chelsea are playing well. They are playing well. Like against Dortmund, they should never have lost 1-0. The chances they had was unbelievable. I couldn't believe there was one cleared off the line. They were hitting the bar, hitting the post, and you're like, what's going on? And you have to look at it. Look what they did to AC Milan, home and away. And that was under Potter. And look what we did. So, if we didn't have a Harry Kane, would we be Chelsea? And that's how we have to look at it, kind of thing. So my worry is, as long as we can keep a clean sheet tomorrow, we're fine. We should be okay. But yeah, if we don't keep a clean sheet, I don't think we're going to win.
Okay. Now comes the all-important score predictions. So, Harry, we'll start with you. Unfortunately, you can't dodge this question, my friend. You have to come up with something. So, hit us. What's the score going to be?
1-1.
Oh, Christ. Okay.
1-1.
Right. 1-1 from Harry. I'm going to back myself with the same result as last week. So I think we'll walk out 2-0. I think we'll keep a clean sheet.
How can you be so positive?
How can I be so positive? Because I look at the way that Chelsea play and how poor they've been against West Ham,
We've been poor.
Southampton, but we still managed to beat those oppositions. I can't see they don't have a proper striker. They have the likes of João Felix on loan, who's been hit and miss. That
very good.
Mudryk, who plays in midfield, has been dreadful at times. Havertz is okay when he wants to be. I just don't think they have anyone that will score the goals. But the angry cock has said, "Do you realise that we have Eric Dyer as centre back?" I do, but I feel like with 2 other players around him, there's a lot more cover for him. I think that next season, I'm not going to name who I think's the manager. I've said many, many times, but I think we go back to a back 4, and I think we then need one quality centre back to fill in, and he won't play a single game for us. But Marlon, what's the score prediction?
Probably 1-0 Chelsea.
Oh,
it'd probably be a penalty.
Right. Okay.
Look, we haven't beat Chelsea since at Wembley, and there's nothing striving me with confidence to go that we're going to beat them this time round, and I think that's why I never predict Spurs to win anyway, just to throw it out there. Unless the only time I think I've done it twice, and that's when we play teams that are really dire, proper they just know they're not going to come to Spurs and win. But this is Chelsea. I'm going on history, and as you said, Luke, these players might not know, but they're going to know this week. That there'll be people at the training ground going, if you need to turn it on this week, it's Spurs, it's Tottenham. The fans will kill you if you don't turn up, and literally will be lynching you if you don't. So they'll be here at the training ground if you don't turn up on Sunday. So I'm not going to be confident. If we concede, we're losing. I think it's going to be a penalty, and I wouldn't be surprised if it comes from Eric Dyer or Longley conceding it.
Penalty by Havertz.
Yeah,
will be their goal for me.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't see us winning this game. There's nothing, and especially with the way our front three is. And I think Kane's been pocketed by Thiago Silva every time he's played him. I know he scored the equaliser at Stamford Bridge, but he was poor that game. It was probably his poorest game in the Spurs shirt. But every time he's come up against Thiago Silva, Kane's been non-existent. And Thiago Silva is just that intelligent. He knows how to play against Harry Kane. And that's my worry, is if Harry Kane's on fire, I can't rely on the others, clearly. So unless Højbjerg and Skip, if they're going to be playing, are going to do a weldy. But even Emerson Royals, he's probably the man I'm relying on.
It's not often that you think you'd hear that statement, but just to go around the houses, I said 2-0 Spurs, Harry said 1-1, Marlon said 1-0 Chelsea, and Wynnie, our other host who couldn't be with us today, has said 2-1 Spurs. So that kind of wraps us up for the show. So really appreciate everybody coming on. Marlon, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on, mate. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube in our handle, in my handle that's above at Southview Quiz. If you want to check anything of us out, if you want, it's also called A View from the South Stand TV. Me and my other hosts, we do match reactions after games, usually about 7:30 on the weekend and 10 o'clock during the week. And we just get the reactions of fans, and that's why Harry's been on, Luke's been on, and come on, it's fun getting people's reactions straight after a game, and then talking to them a week later, and they're like, I've had a chance to watch it again. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And also, if you're about, we have a new show dropping this Tuesday, and we're talking to 2 season ticket holders as well. It's going to be a 2-hour show, 9 o'clock. I'm going to start promoting it on the socials as well. We're going to try something different. So just come over, subscribe. And if after the first month you don't like it, then you can hit that unsubscribe. And make sure you subscribe to this channel as well. And actually, let's be out there. If you see a Spurs football channel on YouTube, no matter who it is, just subscribe, right? Because some of the entertainment you'll get from it is absolutely brilliant. Just let's all support each other, right? We're all in it for one thing, and we all love Tottenham Hotspur.
Mate, that's absolutely brilliant. I really, really appreciate that. And you're not wrong. Go and support each other. More importantly as well, go and check out View from the South Stand TV. And also, go and support Harry, who has just hit 300 subs on his channel, Scarfy Spurs Talk. Piggybacking off our channel once again. No, I'm joking. How they can find you, Harry?
Thank you, Luke. So you got my personal tag there, Harry Scarf 22, which you probably see me fairly active, I would say, on Twitter, like winding up rival fans, giving my opinions. Fairly active on there. Have a decent following. I'm also the founder of Scarfy Spurs Talk, which is a fan channel, independent hub, transfer news, post-match reactions. As you know, now new live show Monday every 8 p.m, which has gone down well, which I'm happy about. And now we've reached 300 subs. And although that may not seem like a lot, just to give you an idea, we've gained nearly 60 subs in 2023. It started properly in January, so that turnover has been I've never seen it before. We're talking so many subs every day. So thank you all for your incredible support. You also see me quite often every Saturday, co-host the Park Lane podcast. And also I'm on Marlon, your fantastic channel, A View from the South Stand, quite regularly as well. So go check out Park Lane podcast, Scarfy Spurs Talk, and A View from the South Stand. I think 3 excellent channels. You're on mute.
Mute, Luke.
Mute.
All right. Much love to everybody here today. So really do appreciate it. As mentioned at the start of the show, you can check out our sponsors who are here. Secure VPN. You get 25% discount off your first month. So make sure you follow secure.vpn.com/Park Lane Pod. But more importantly, subscribe to everyone's channel. Support all the Spurs fans that are out there doing this for free every week. Or sometimes daily, and putting out content that is absolutely brilliant. So go support each other, go chat in the comments, go subscribe to everyone's channel. We really, really, really do appreciate it. But, we will see you next week, where we will talk a lot more Spurs and a lot more antics that have happened, including we'll talk about Daniel Levy's potential pay rise. So make sure you check that one out. Great to see everybody. Thank you all once again for joining, and we'll see you next time. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.